Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs connect the dots with their dream clients to scale to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Diane Helbig. Hey, Diane.
How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, where in the world are you?
I am in Lakewood, Ohio.
Very nice. You're not
Yeah.
all that far from me. I'm in Maryland.
Oh, yeah. We're almost neighbors.
We're in the same part of the world.
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. And for people that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us a bit about your business?
Sure. It's an advisory training business. I advise small business owners and train just about everyone else, and including small business owners, on soft skills, leadership, customer service, communication, sales, that sort of thing.
Awesome. I am coming from corporate and management, and I have a huge appreciation for that because soft skills, you can train hard skills. Like soft skills are so much harder to train, and either people have them or they don't, and they require a lot more work.
Yes, they do. But if they didn't, I'd have to go do something else.
This is very true. That's good job security for you.
Yes.
So I know you're like the queen of sales, like you really, have a lot of expertise in there. And this is something I love to geek out about, but I know a lot of people really struggle in feeling confident and really feeling impactful. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what brought you there.
So I started out always in small business, but in management, in leadership,
Mhm.
in businesses. And when I came to Ohio, I came because the company I worked for opened an office here. So I had to opened it, no problem. And then they said, you need to go into sales because you're the only person in our Ohio office who really understands what we do. And I said, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to be a salesperson. You got to be kidding. And we went back and forth for a while. They won. And so I did. I went into sales. I took the Dale Carnegie course, which was one of the best things I could have ever done because I realized that selling, like we've been taught about selling, is really not how to do it. And so that was liberating for me. I knew I could engage in a different way. Then I went to work for another company in sales. And in 2005, I just decided, you know what? I want to do my own thing. And I want to help small business owners get over this struggle that they have with selling. Really, that was my first immediate, wow, it doesn't have to be this hard. I want to go help them figure it out. So that's why I launched my business in 2006.
I love it. So that I'm sure was very liberating to think the thing I hate and feel uncomfortable, like that's not what this is.
Yes.
What would you say in your expertise is the key to sales? Like what is the difference there?
Yeah, boy, thanks for the question. So the key to sales is to not sell, which sounds a little weird, but it's really about curiosity. It's about being curious about other people, which is so much easier. This is what's so interesting to me about we've been engaging in the sales process that we don't like, that other people don't like us doing to them, that's uncomfortable, feels slimy, sleazy. It's just nothing good about it. We don't get the results that we want. It's a total struggle. Okay. So how about if we stop behaving that way, stop doing all of those things, and just start building relationships and being interested in other people and being willing to do the research and engage and not talk about us and our widget, but really learn about them. It's easier, it's more natural, it's more comfortable. Quite frankly, this is where women shine and excel if they embrace this because we're community builders by nature. So this comes naturally to us if we do it right, if we just go down this road. So that's what I would say to anybody. Just turn the switch off, get curious. It's amazing how it'll change for you.
Absolutely. And curiosity is just critical in all of it. But how does active listening tie in with that? Like, what are the keys and things that people need to do to be able to be curious and have a successful conversation?
Yeah. So the first thing is, I said it sort of jokingly, but it's really true. So let go of the idea of selling. Just don't even put it in there. Assume no one needs what you have to sell when you're out and about, because then you won't be in that sales mind. But then really think about what you would want to learn about someone, right? Like what I say is, like, if you're out networking, just say, so tell me about you, or tell me your story, because then you're going to learn about what matters to them, what's on their mind, what's really going. It could be about their family, it could be about their business. It really doesn't matter, but you're starting the process of getting to know them, and people love to talk about themselves, right? So let them, but you have to really listen. This is where active listening comes in. You have to really listen to what they're saying to you. You can't listen with that ear toward asking the next question that you have, or trying to figure out if they could be a client, right? You just have to be in the moment, be present in the moment, watch all the signals around you, listen to what's really going on, have meaningful conversations, because that's how you're going to figure out not only who should be in your orbit, but where they fit in your orbit, because not everyone fits as a potential client, right? But there's so much value in these relationships that you could be building. And it also tells you who you don't want in your orbit, right? Which is
100%.
equally important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you don't want everybody as your clients. So the part of that is sifting out the people you do want and building relationships with all of them, because they might know somebody that needs what you want ultimately.
Yeah.
And, if you make people feel good and have a good relationship with them, you never know where it's going to take you.
Exactly right. Right. And you may never do business with someone, but they will refer you down the road. I just had this experience where I met a woman probably 15 years ago, and we became business friends, but we've never been able to refer each other business because we're in different lanes. I mean, really different lanes. But we've engaged over the years and seen each other and talked and caught up and all those things. And a couple of months ago, she reached out to me and she said, hey, I have this woman who does a book club who was asking if I knew anyone who had a sales book. I thought of you. Do you want to talk to her? Sure. 15 years later, right? So I know. See, we have to let go of this shark attack sort of where's dinner, where's dinner. And it doesn't mean that we don't have to do outreach. We do. We have to do prospecting. But there we also want to be curious. And remember, you said it. We don't want to do business with everybody, right? Everyone is not a target. Our job is to do the research to whittle down to first where we think it's worth a conversation. And then when we're in the conversation, being even more curious to make sure we can help them and we want to help them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it a little earlier, but about how women build community. But what are the differences that you've seen between men and women, and how they maybe stereotypically tend to approach this?
Yeah. So men don't listen at all. Some of them do. I shouldn't generalize. Some men listen really well, but men are driven by making that client connection. That's the road they go in. They're very comfortable with it. They aren't uncomfortable asking a lot of difficult questions, like around budget, things like that. Women want to be helpers. Women we're problem solvers, right? It's just how we fit in our families. It's how we engage with other people. We take care of our friends. We want to make sure that people are okay. And so we naturally listen better. And when you listen better and you're a problem solver and you approach sales that way, it's more attractive to whoever it is you're talking to, male or female. It's more attractive. So it's not like you have to only do business with women. It's just a different way of engaging that tells that person, I care about you more than I care about making a sale, hitting quota. Men, it's just not in their world. honestly, I think somewhere in there, they believe that that's what they're doing, but that's not how they engage. Like they will say, oh, this my product solves these problems. They get that part, but that's not how they engage with people. So some people like that. That's okay. They want sort of that, just tell me what I need. But most people don't. People don't want to be sold. And especially now that the internet is there.
Yeah.
And they don't need the salesperson to educate them.
So when you're having that conversation, if you feel like, sales objections, like you can feel people's guard going up, like what are some tips and techniques that you would say to get people to disarm and just feel more opening up to you?
Yeah. So I think what you do is you say, it feels like this is making you uncomfortable. Would you mind sharing with me what's going on right now with you? Okay. First of all, because you have the right to know, you also have an obligation to push that a little bit, and you do it respectfully, professionally, politely. There's a reason why they're doing that. And what we tend to do is the minute they start, stepping back, we step back. And so we don't continue to go in with those questions that we really need answers to, because every single aspect matters in the question, can I help you? Right? It's not just about this thing that I can solve. It's all the other things. So if they don't feel comfortable, there's a reason. And we can say to them, listen, like a lot of people don't like budget questions. And you can say, I get it. I've heard it before. And in order for us to be able to identify whether it makes sense for us to work together, that's a big part of the equation. So let's talk about how we can have that conversation, because it's all about, but when you're paying attention, right, you're being curious and you're actively listening, you're picking up on all of that. You just very politely talk to me about what's going on with you right now, because I'm feeling like this conversation is causing you distress, making you uncomfortable, and that's not my intention. So what's going on? How can we get past that?
Yeah. No, I love that, because whatever has come up in their mind is going to be basically at the forefront of their mind, until it's addressed, right? Like it doesn't just magically go away.
Right. And then they sort of tune out to everything else, right? So we move on. And what I always say is, when I'm talking about doing with asking a lot of questions and really not just about the thing, but about decision making, have they worked with an organization like mine before? A whole lot of questions. We're walking together down a road.
Right.
So as long as I'm getting meaningful answers to those questions, we're both going to know at the end of that road whether it makes sense for us to move forward. So it eliminates objections, because I've gotten answers to all these things. So if I really think, okay, I can help you, it's because I ticked every box. And now when I give it back to you, I'm addressing every single one of those things. So as long as you were honest with me, we're good, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not going to be able to, we both know it too, but I'm going to say, thanks so much for the information. I don't think I'm the right resource for you. Right? Just, it doesn't seem to make sense for us to go any further in this. And you're both going to know it. So it's okay. And they're going to respect that an awful lot. You're not going to try and shoehorn them into something just because you need the revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so much more effective. And it's coming to mind. Last night, we were talking about internet before we hopped on, but I was talking with my internet provider and they were just being pushy. And like, I actually wanted what they were asking me about, but the more they pushed, the more my objections came up. And I'm like, just stop, and if people aren't reading those behaviors, you end up losing. Like, I actually wanted what they had, but now you're just overstepping your boundaries with me,
Right. Yeah. Right. They're talking you out of it. What I say is, you can't sell anything to anybody. People will buy from you when they need what you have and they like you and they trust you. Right. So if they had stopped doing that, you would have been able to make the deal. But this pushing, but they were reading a script. They weren't.
Oh, yeah. And I don't fault them for that. It was like, I actually want to do, business.
I know, right.
Now you're making it difficult. Right. stop talking. You'll make more sales.
You had me at hello. That's what you should have said.
You lost me at decide now.
Yeah, right.
So I guess to that point, what are the gaps and mistakes that you see that people make in this whole process?
Ooh, okay. So it starts when they're networking and they think they have to tell people what they do. And the truth is, no one cares what you do. I mean, you don't care what they do. They don't care what you do. Let's stop. The second thing is asking people, well, what do you do? Because you really don't care. What you care about is why they do what they do and the result of what they do, right? So we talk way too much in networking because we think we have to find clients instead of just relaxing. Then what a lot of people are doing these days, and I would love to find out who's teaching them this, is they're connecting with people on LinkedIn and then they're trying to sell them in their inbox on LinkedIn, but they aren't doing their discovery. They're not curious. They're not doing their research. They're just deciding. And sometimes they're not even connecting with them. They're doing it through InMail. So that's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to, you know, and you have one chance to make a first impression. So you can't grab that back later. They could be the perfect prospect for you, and you ruin it when you behave that way. So not being curious enough and not doing enough discovery and research, and then seeking a conversation instead of a sale. And then when you're in that conversation, asking all those questions and getting all those answers. And the last thing I see people doing is they make the sale and then they move on.
Yeah.
Instead of further nurturing that relationship, right? There's so much more that could be going on there. And if you're not nurturing them, your competition is. And so, you know, it's whoever is top of mind, and you want it to be you. So those are the big things I see people.
Yeah, no, and I love that because you've already identified they have the need. So if you're not going to continue to nurture them, then someone else is going to address the need that you've already spent the effort to identify.
And there might be other needs that they have that you could handle. That's the other thing people do, is when they get into that sales conversation, they tell the prospect everything they do, and the prospect's not listening. Right. So what I always say is the more you're talking, the less they're listening. So you're wasting everybody's time. They've checked out because you're talking about stuff that doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Right. That's for later when you're continuing to learn about them. They're changing constantly. You're changing constantly. It's not a one and done.
Absolutely. So you mentioned about the networking questions. What would you say would be some of the best networking questions instead of the what is what do you do? And that's just a very boring, it's like the how are you? I hate that question.
I know, right?
Nobody's ever listening, but what's a better way to do that?
I think you could say, what brings you here? You could say, my favorite is tell me your story, because boy, it just opens up a world or tell me about you. Those are the ones I use. But you can say, how did you get into your line of business? So you're not asking them what they do. What was the motivation? Okay. What lights you up? Like, what do you love most about it? What do you not like about it? You can ask that as well. You could ask a totally off the wall question. You could say, if you weren't doing what you're currently doing, what would you be doing? Right? I had someone ask me that once. I said, I'd be a farmer, which is,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
But it engages conversation. That's what you want. You want to have a conversation with somebody. You don't want to be doing this weird, peacock dance with, I'm so great at what I do. I'm so great at what I do.
Right.
Okay. No one cares.
Nobody
Move
cares.
on, right?
Yeah.
Where's the bar? Yeah.
So true. And we'll say with LinkedIn, what I know you've seen all the awful introductions, but what are some good ones that people could use to really authentically network?
Yeah, boy, thanks. I love that. So, and thank you. Right. There's a lot people are doing wrong. There's a lot people are doing right. One of the things I see people doing right is they connect on LinkedIn, and then they will come right out and say, listen, this isn't a sales pitch. I would really love to learn about you and your business. I have some questions about, what you're up to. Are you open to jumping on a short call, 15 minutes, right? Sure. I would do that. I've met some incredible people that way. And we weren't necessarily right for each other, but we got to know each other and stayed connected, and you just never know what's going to come out of those relationships, right? So I think what I've noticed, and the people who I then engage with, are the ones who come across genuinely curious. There's no other agenda. Because the truth is, they don't know whether I need what they have to offer. But they've seen something that has, sometimes they'll say, you and I were engaged in a conversation over on this post, and I really liked what you said, so I thought I'd connect with you. Great. It's okay. I mean, that's how relationships start, right? And then it's, would you mind having a chat? And the chat has nothing to do with what either of us do. Right. And then there's another one. That's the other thing these people do really well. Should we schedule another one? Or how about if I reach back out in a couple months just to see how you're doing? And then they follow the people they're connected to, and they'll comment on things. It's like dating, right? You have to keep building the relationship. It takes work, it takes nurturing. And I find that the people who I've really built very good relationships with, who were total strangers before they connected with me on LinkedIn, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And to the dating analogy, I love that analogy, but you don't ask them to marry you on the first date, right? Or if you do, it may not end very well.
Right? It's what I always go, by show of hands, who got married on their first date?
Right.
But you might know on your, like I knew on my first date that I was going to marry my husband.
Yeah, me
we still dated for a year because there's too much you don't know about them. Yeah. Well, if you're going to get into a client vendor relationship with someone, it's like a marriage.
Yeah.
So you want to be sure you really want to be in that relationship with that person, because it's hard to get divorced.
Absolutely. And you mentioned follow-up also. I'm a huge believer in that. But what are some tips, or, how many times do people have to follow up? Like, you feel like it can be endless sometimes, but what is your take on that?
Yeah, I know, right? It goes back and forth. Yeah. So my guideline is, if you meet someone who you feel a resonance with, suggest coffee, a virtual coffee, in person, depending on where they are, whatever it is. And then have that conversation and just see where that goes from there. I think it's valuable to say, because we're all so busy, to say, how about if we reconnect in a couple months, just to check in, see how, we're doing. Great. Because that's easy, right? In the meantime, we'll probably be following each other. If it's someone who you meet who you feel might be a good referral partner, okay, but you don't know whether they're going to be or not, because you don't know anything about them, right? Do you really want to be referred by them?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some people in town I don't want to be referred by because they're terrible at what they do, and I don't want to be associated, right? But I didn't know that. You don't know it right out. So, but if I thought someone might be, I would say, how about if we schedule some time, we can sit down and really talk. I'd love to learn more about you and your business, and how you deal with your clients, what works, what doesn't, what you're experiencing, how you get new clients, just all that stuff. I'm fascinated. I'd really love to learn. And then we sit down, and it's not for me to tell them about my business. It's for me to learn as much, once again, curiosity, for me to learn as much as I can about them and how they do business, but also understand we're probably going to have a couple of those conversations before I'm going to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you help people with a lot of different things, but what does that look like, to work with you, to be part of your program? Like, how does that relationship work?
So thank you for asking that question. So I offer everyone a complimentary 30-minute phone consult, so that we can both identify whether it makes sense for us to move forward, but also because if I can help you in 30 minutes, I'm happy to do it. I think that would be great. If we decide we want to move forward and we both make that decision, we want to move forward, typically it depends on what's going on with the person. Typically we do a strategy session. It's like 2 hours where we dig in. I ask a ton of questions and we come up with what's really going on. Where do you want to go? And we set a course. Mm-hmm. And then they start implementing the course and we stay together so I can help them navigate. And I just do blocks of hours, just, buy a block of hours and we'll use them however we need them. So there's flow, and it can change over time. It just depends on what's going on. Sometimes it's project work, training, that kind of thing. And then that's just a set. It'll be this much time, but the 30-minute phone consult is where we figure out whether we should be working together and what that looks like.
Yeah, no, and I love that because then that's custom built basically for them, for their goals, whatever it is they're trying to accomplish.
Everything I do is very individualized because I don't believe there's one size fits all. Mm-hmm. Right. I feel like I have to get to know you, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It's 2 hours because I'm really paying attention, and I can usually figure out what that block is, what that thing is that's causing you stress and challenge. And then we just figure out what we need to do. So depends on what's going on with them. It depends on a lot of things, but yes, totally individualized.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And do you have them set goals that you're working towards, or going over sales calls, or how does that work to really progress them?
Yeah. So when it comes to helping them with their sales process, we create a process that they're going to follow. And in that case, we're touching base once a week to really make sure, okay, were you able to do that? How did it go? Talk to me about the content of, what's happening here. Where do you think things worked? Where do you feel uncomfortable? So that we can really keep moving that. And we just take it down the road. So then when it comes to those conversations, before they ever get into that sales meeting, we've made the list of questions that are the base, right? That you have to ask these. You can't walk away without these. There's tag-on questions and there's ways of asking them. Right. And we figure that out for the person. But yeah, it's a whole, and so we monitor it as it goes because I want to be able to help them change it if it's not working, right? Yeah. And my goal is that they really develop a system that works for them. So whether I'm there or not, they can continue to implement it because it's comfortable for them. They'll do it. Yeah. Whatever it is. So
I love that. And you've accomplished a ton throughout your career. I mean, you're award-winning speaker, published author, business leader. You've done so much, but how do you define success? What does that look like for you?
So for me, it's so interesting. I've thought a lot about this question, and I think success for me is that I am adding value to other people and that they are more successful because of our relationship. That's success for me because that's why I got into this business, right? So the more small business owners and salespeople I can impact, then I feel job done.
That's awesome. And you make such a difference in people's lives. I mean, when you're teaching people to be successful on their own, you can transform lives. So that's really, really powerful. Awesome. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Oh my gosh.
A big question for you.
It is a big question. I love it. I would tell them to be curious, not judgmental, to know that until you really know someone, you don't know someone, that other people aren't going to motor through the world the way you do, and that's okay. You can't make them motor through the world the way you do. And I think we should all be giving each other a little grace and try to understand this is Stephen Covey now, but try and understand before we try to be understood. I think it would change the world.
I love that. It's, so powerful. And I'll just get along.
Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Lovely.
So for people that want to reach out to you and get your help, where can they find you online?
So they can find me just about anywhere except Twitter, because I left there yesterday. And I'm not going back. But anywhere else, they can probably find me. But the best place to go is my website, helbigenterprises.com, because everything is there. So.
And we'll have all the links down below. But
thank you.
Of course. And thank you, Diane, for being on today. This was awesome. And I love always geeking out about sales. It's a lot of fun.
Me too. Thanks for having me and letting me.
Of course, absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.